This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Yes, we are broadcasting live from the UN Climate Summit in Bonn, Germany, where representatives from nearly 200 nations have gathered for negotiations aimed at bolstering the landmark 2015 Paris Climate Accord. This year, Fiji has made history by becoming the first small island nation to preside over the UN Climate Summit. The event itself is being held in Bonn because of the logistical challenges of hosting 25,000 people in Fiji at the start of the South Pacific cyclone season. But it's still being called the Island COP. Climate change poses a particularly devastating threat to low-lying island nations like Fiji. A new report says Fiji would have to spend $4.5 billion over the next decade to adapt to climate change, a sum equivalent to its entire annual gross domestic product. Meanwhile, a new report released today shows climate change threatens 1 in 4 natural World Heritage sites from the Florida Everglades to Mount Kilimanjaro and Tanzania. This year's climate change conference comes after President Trump has vowed to pull the United States out of the landmark 2015 Paris Climate Accord. Last week in Bonn, Syria signed on to the Paris deal, meaning that if President Trump fulfills his vow to pull the U.S. out of the deal, the United States would become the only nation on earth that is not a party to the agreement. There are, in fact, a number of U.S. delegations here in Bonn, though. One is a coalition of U.S. lawmakers, universities, companies, and faith groups that are staging an anti-Trump revolt by rejecting Trump's action and declaring, "We are still in." Well, on Saturday, a group of protesters, many of whom were Native American, disrupted California Governor Jerry Brown's speech here in Bonn, calling on California to ban fracking. The protesters yelled, "Keep it in the ground."
Yeah, I wish we could have no pollution, but we have to have our automobiles. In the ground. In the ground. I agree with you, in the ground. Let's put you in the ground so we can get on with the show here. Anyway.
That's California Governor Jerry Brown Saturday saying, let's put you in the ground. Well, I questioned Governor Brown about his comments just before we went to broadcast today. On Saturday, a group of protesters, mainly Native American, disrupted your event and called for a ban on fracking.
No, they were calling for a ban on all oil production.
So they said
oil production.
So they said keep it in the ground, and you responded by saying, let's put you in the ground. Can you explain what you meant?
That was a joke. Now, I mean, don't use your media outlet for this kind of silliness. That was a ironic remark in the face of a noisy demonstration when it's very hard to even hear, much less keep your thought there.
But it was Native Americans, and they took it very seriously. Do you apologize for that comment?
No, come on. You know that in California, we have the strongest Native American policy of any state in the country. And we have the most environmental, and we have the toughest rules on oil. I don't think we should shut down oil in California and then take it from Venezuela or take it from places where the rules are even worse. We have to stop the cars. We have to get electric. We have to get public transportation. We need better land use. We've got to solve the problem. And I understand because we deal with protests all the time. But California, we are cutting our oil consumption. We're cutting our greenhouse gases. That's what we have to do, not just a slogan or a march around or talk. I'm talking about reality. And California has the strongest oil reduction rules in America. We're the leader. If someone wants to say, oh, get rid of oil, you mean get rid of our cars. If you got rid of cars, you would have a revolution and there'd be shooting in the streets.
They were calling on a ban on fracking like New York and Maryland.
Of oil production.
But also fracking. What is your approach to that?
I don't think it makes sense to import oil by train. It's very dangerous. And people who say, hey, don't take oil out of your ground, bring it by train or by boat, that's far more dangerous. The answer is stop using oil in cars, in trucks. You need a renewable vehicle grid. That's the answer. And I think to say anything else is not intellectually honest and is not helpful.
Are you considering a ban on fracking?
Thank you. Let's go.
We're considering a ban on oil over the next 25 years. We're reducing it. That's pure rhetoric. Pure rhetoric. What are you going to do if
New York and Maryland did it?
We've got to go. We've got to go.
Yeah, because they don't have the same situation. Pennsylvania didn't do it.
Okay.
This is just kind of a little left-wing routine here.
I don't think fracking is. Fracking is a very serious issue, as you know.
Fracking is very serious, and horizontal fracking is very dangerous and uses 10 times the water. And in California, it's a very small part. What I'm talking about, we'd like to get rid of all oil drilling, but we have to do it in a systematic way, reducing the demand and not just the supply. Because if we don't reduce the demand, we'll get the supply by boat and by train, and that is really dangerous to human beings. People die from the training of bringing in of oil. So that's the honest truth. I don't know whether that is something you're going to want to deal with, but I'm telling you the way it is.
So that was California Governor Jerry Brown.